Glen Hiemstra, and this is Futurist.com online TV, and this is my outlook for 2009. The first thing I want to talk about is what I call the triple E, the environment, the economy, and energy. I'm going to start with the economy. When I did Outlook 2008, I foresaw the economic bust, and I foresaw that it was going to be significant, but perhaps not as significant as it's turned out to be. Everywhere we read that we're in the worst economic situation since the Great Depression, and that is probably true. As we look to 2009, what's going to happen? Some say the recession is going to last through the year. I think we're going to turn more quickly, and here's why. The level of economic stimulus that's going to come from the new administration and the level of consumer confidence that's going to come from a new psychology when we have the new administration in place and the economic stimulus package in place that they're going to bring, I think is going to turn the consumer economy and the stock market faster than the conventional wisdom says. The one thing that's not going to rebound in 2009, I do not believe, will be housing values. And the reason I think that is that housing values need actually to either stabilize further or even come down further in order for housing values to match the level of income that the average person has. What happened in the last few years is that housing values got way ahead of the ability of the average person to pay for them, so we pretended that everybody could afford them with these very clever debt instruments. And that's what's all come crashing down now. And so I think we have a ways to go to bring housing values into line with what people can actually afford. So those are a couple of thoughts on the economy. When it comes to energy, the thing that I said in Outlook 2008 is that by the middle of 2008, energy prices, that is oil prices, would be at $140. That was kind of an outrageous prediction, and I myself was actually a bit surprised when on July 1st or so, oil prices hit $140. But like everybody else, I've been surprised since to see how far they've come down, now in the 40-something range. What I think is going to happen to oil prices in 2009 is that they're going to begin to drift upward as the economy stabilizes and begins to turn around. And as the year goes by, we'll move back toward oil prices in the $80 range or so. And the reason for that is that the oil dynamics have really not changed. That is, demand for oil continues to outstrip supply. It's been moderated by the economic downturn, of course, but we are not discovering great new supplies of oil. We have not actually had any big discoveries of oil supplies since the 1960s. We've been living off this legacy of all the big fields that were discovered. And whenever you read about a new discovery, you'll notice that actually it's a very small amount. And that dynamic is just not going to change. And therefore, we're going to be spending a lot of time in 2009 talking about and attempting to begin to develop alternative energy sources and begin the gradual shift and actually rapidly speeding up shift away from the fossil fuel economy. And that brings us into the third E of the triple E, economy, environment, energy, in this case, environment. 2009, finally, we're going to begin to see a lot of action on the environmental front because of the change in the administration, particularly around developing sustainability in buildings. Now, this might surprise people. We think about transportation and other kinds of issues related to the environment and sustainability. But one of the things that's being talked about in the stimulus package is building more sustainability into our buildings. Recently, I've done some research and discovered that 40% of our carbon dioxide emissions that lead to or contribute to global warming actually come from our built infrastructure, that is, our homes and our commercial buildings. And what I'm reading and hearing is that a lot of the stimulus package is going to go toward retrofitting both commercial buildings and public buildings like schools, and we might even apply some money to homes in order to try to decrease the amount of emissions that come from those public or from those kinds of building infrastructure. And I think that that emphasis is going to be important. There's one other emphasis that I think we'll start to see in 2009, and that will to begin talking about, probably not yet building, but to begin designing the new electricity grid that's going to be required to have more solar energy and more wind energy as part of our overall energy picture. So that's a bit about economy and energy and environment. Two other areas I want to address in this particular outlook, Outlook 2009. One is the future of healthcare. I was there in 1992, 1993. It was early in my actual consulting career as a futurist, and everybody was talking about healthcare reform. The Clintons had been elected. Everybody expected there to be significant change in our national healthcare system. And as we all know, there was not any significant change. There were some minor changes around the edges, but the healthcare lobbies were able to fight off any significant change. Now with the new administration, we're once again going to take a look at the whole healthcare situation. And the situation is that we have 50 million people who are uncovered by health insurance. But the deeper kind of dynamic in the healthcare system is that we continue to have a healthcare insurance system that's attached to employment, when having that makes less and less sense. As people lose their jobs in this particular economic downturn, what else do they lose? They lose their health insurance. When a company gets in trouble, what do they look to cut back? They cut back health insurance. They cut back health insurance to retirees. We are told that in the conversation about the future of healthcare, the one thing that's going to be off the table is what's called single-payer healthcare systems, or single-payer insurance, i.e. Medicare for everyone. If the conversation is open enough to include the concept of something like Medicare for everyone, and then private insurance companies to provide the supplemental insurance similar to the supplemental insurance that elders can buy right now for their Medicare policies, then we have a chance of actually fundamentally reforming the U.S. healthcare system. If that remains off the table, then I think the healthcare lobbies will fight off most of the healthcare changes that are being proposed, and we'll once again see very minor changes to the system unless we have the larger concept of a single payer system at least on the table. The last thing I want to talk about is the future of technology. And of course, one can address many different things in there, but the most exciting action in 2009, I think, is going to come in two areas. One is mobile internet access. This is kind of self-evident, actually. Internet access via iPhones and via the new forms of BlackBerry and the new kind of very small net computers. And the second thing that's kind of related to that is the emergence of more and more gesture-based or touch-based interaction, both with your computing programs and with the internet, whether that's sliding your finger over the screen of an iPhone or the new BlackBerry or the new HP computers in which you interact with the screen by touching the screen, or the Microsoft Surface Computing Initiative, which has those tabletop kind of computers that you can interact with both by touch and simply by gesture. I think those are the two most exciting development areas in 2009. Mobile access to the internet and this kind of touch and gesture-based interaction with computers. So that's my outlook for 2009. I think it's going to be a very interesting year. And I think actually at the end of it, we'll decide it turned out better than we thought that it would. This is Glen Hiemstra, and this is Futurist.com online TV.